In the late 1800s, America's railroads were more than just transportation. They were the arteries of a rapidly growing nation, moving people, goods, and, most importantly, wealth across the land. But with prosperity came opportunity, and for a group of notorious criminals, the moving trains became an irresistible target. Among these outlaws was the Harrison Gang, led by Jesse Harrison, a man whose name would be etched into criminal history after one final, daring heist. Their last job was to be the crowning achievement of their criminal career, a train robbery so meticulously planned and audacious, it would leave the entire nation stunned. But, as with all great criminals, this heist would also mark the end of their reign of terror and the fall of the Harrison Gang. The Harrison Gang had been a thorn in the side of law enforcement for years. Harrison and his crew boarded the train from multiple points, using their knowledge of the train's layout to move undetected. They had studied the map, knew the timing, and anticipated every move. The plan was flawless, or so it seemed. The chaos was loud and intense, shattering the stillness of the night. The sound of gunfire echoed through the train, and in that moment, the carefully constructed plan began to unravel. The plan was simple: board the train, seize the gold, and disappear before anyone could even blink. One by one, the members of the Harrison Gang were either captured or killed in desperate firefights with law enforcement. The once feared gang, who had outwitted the law for so long, was now falling apart. Harrison, with the law closing in on him, took refuge in a small cabin. Lawmen surrounded the building, and the tension was palpable. Harrison, always the fighter, made his final stand, refusing to surrender. For hours, he held off the authorities, his shots echoing across the hills. But in the end, he was outnumbered and outgunned. They boarded quickly, moving with the precision of a well-oiled machine. The gang, once feared and untouchable, was no more. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more true crime stories, deep dives into historical mysteries, and captivating tales of the Wild West. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the fascinating stories of the past. The members were either dead or incarcerated, and the infamous Harrison Gang was consigned to the annals of criminal history. Jesse Harrison himself led the charge, taking control of the train's cargo with calculated efficiency. But then, things went wrong. Newspapers across the country covered the story, recounting the details of the daring robbery, the shootout, and the eventual downfall of the gang. Jesse Harrison, though captured and executed, became a symbol of the outlaws of the Wild West, a man who had dared to defy the law only to be undone by his own hubris. Their last train heist marked the end of an era, a time when the American frontier was still defined by lawlessness, rebellion, and the relentless pursuit of wealth. The tale of Jesse Harrison and his gang will forever be remembered as one of the most daring and tragic chapters in the history of the Old West. Panic surged, but Harrison remained calm. The gang managed to secure the treasure, but the damage had been done. The thrill of the heist, the glory of the escape, and the price of infamy all came crashing down in one final, fateful robbery. It was a reminder of a time when the Wild West was still wild, and when criminals like the Harrison Gang could rise to notoriety with nothing more than a train, a plan, and a daring heart. The law was closing in, and the authorities were now on high alert. But what seemed like a straightforward heist was anything but. The gang had one final shot at fame, and they were prepared to risk everything. Jesse Harrison, the leader of the gang, was a master strategist, but they knew the law would be hot on their trail. What followed was a relentless pursuit across the Midwest. Lawmen from multiple states joined forces, tracking down leads, gathering information, and following the faintest of clues. The gang's every move was being watched. He and his crew were known for their precision, their ability to disappear without a trace, and their ruthless ambition. The Harrison Gang had been planning the robbery for weeks, studying the train's routes, its security, and the timing of its stops. Known for his ability to vanish when needed, he evaded capture for weeks, using every trick he knew to stay one step ahead of the law. But his time was running out. Jesse Harrison knew this was the job that could make them legends if it went according to plan. They had set up their escape route, carefully positioning themselves along the tracks and preparing a decoy to distract anyone who might be trailing them. Over the years, they'd pulled off dozens of robberies, each one more daring than the last. But in 1897, the gang's focus shifted. They'd set their sights on the Midwest Express, a train carrying one of the most coveted treasures. The Midwest Express was notorious for its wealth, but it was also heavily guarded, making it a prime target for Harrison and his gang. The heist was to take place on a moonless night. As the Midwest Express chugged toward its next station, unaware of the danger ahead, the gang took their positions. The gang's plan was almost too perfect. As the train slowed for a routine stop, the robbers began their attack. A sudden noise, a delayed signal, and a misstep in the timing led to a gunfight breaking out with the train's security personnel. One of the gang members was shot, another was pinned down by a guard, and the gold, though seized, was now under threat of being lost. With the loot in hand, the Harrison Gang made their escape, disappearing into the darkness of the night. It wasn't long before the authorities began to catch up. Jesse Harrison, however, was a different story. The end came in the remote hills of the Midwest. Captured and brought to trial, Jesse Harrison met his end at the hands of the law. The Harrison gang's last heist on the Midwest Express became the stuff of legends. The robbery itself, with its meticulous planning, daring execution, and dramatic aftermath, remains one of the most infamous train robberies in American history. Though the Harrison gang is long gone, their story lives on. And so, the story of the Harrison gang serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the bold criminals can fall when their ambition leads them too far. Thank you for listening to the incredible tale of the Harrison gang's last train heist.